Hey folks, welcome back to another HP Gaming GameLINK video. It is review time, so we are going to pull out all the stops here and give you a rundown of this great new game from Bad Comet. It is the spiritual successor to Wild Serengeti. I am talking about Bad Comet's Life of the Amazonia. Hello my friends, welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt and I'm sure we are going to become the very best of friends. As I said in the tease, today we are taking a look at the previewing I should say, Life of the Amazonia by Bad Comet Games. That's this one right here. I should have just shown you my shirt. I've got the same artwork on today. This is their new one, their follow-up, as I said in the tease, to Wild Serengeti, and it's a lot. I will say that there is a lot going on here. I don't know if you can see on the overhead, there is a ton of stuff here. Again, this is all prototype at this stage, so I do know there are going to be some revisions, remanufactures, all that sort of stuff. Also, I will say too, the rules that I'm using are the most current up-to-date rules, but they are subject to change as well, as the Kickstarter is getting ready to launch on October 12th. So by all means, check out the Kickstarter. Use the link in the description below to check it out. Have a bit of a look. What is Life of the Amazonia? Wild Serengeti was a placement style game, tableau building game. This is similar, but it is so different, and in my opinion, so much more. In Life of the Amazonia, you are going to be trying to resurrect and revegetate part of the Amazon rainforest, part of the Amazon jungle, and then repopulate that with all manner of species of animals that are local inhabitants. Basically help them become less than, or more than, endangered species rather, and effectively revitalize, become an eco-warrior of sorts, and try to build the best, most vibrant jungle that you can. That's basically the gist of it, but how do you go about that? There are many ways to victory. You'll use your bag building to effectively accrue points for resource bonuses. Then you can spend those resources to acquire new animals into your jungle, expand your jungle's territory, all sorts of crazy stuff. There are many ways to earn points, eco points, but there's only one winner, obviously. This is a game that requires a fair bit of thought. However, once you've had a few turns in, you'll get right into the guts of it and really enjoy what it's really quite a good time. So how does it play? How does it work? What are the mechanics? What can you tell us about it? So, mechanically speaking, at first glance, I deliberately tried to stay a bit mum about this whole thing and not know too much about it. I wanted to open it myself and get into the guts of it. I did not realize at the time this is a deck builder, bag building game of sorts. And for those of you that watch the channel, deck builders are my jam. Love them to death. Which means this game in particular was fantastic. So being able to build your bag here, you open up the bag and you've got a number of tokens. You'll draw out 5 tokens per turn, and those tokens could be gold tokens, aqua tokens, leaf tokens, or even the occasional food token as well. But they're all very basic. When you start, you will spend your gold to upgrade those tokens to get bigger and better things, tokens that are worth 4 instead of 2, etc., and so on and so forth. And that goes for every token: gold, leaf, that goes for the water token and the food tokens as well. Larger tokens with higher values means you can do more stuff. What I love about the bag building is that it is that deck builder style where you literally put in as many tokens. I guess the best way I could liken it is Meeples versus Monsters, Quacks style gameplay, Quacks of Quedlinburg, that is. So you'll be building up your bag of tokens in order to do crazier stuff. You'll use as well this Waterfall of Life, which is this stunning 3-dimensional creation here. That has undergone some massive overhauls as well. But at its core, the Waterfall of Life is effectively a score track and a great visual piece to bring that table presence that I so dearly enjoy to the table. The top track here allows you to expand your jungle. So you spend 1 leaf, you move up, and you can lay out another token, another set of hexes for your jungle. The next one down allows you to put these lovely fellows in the trees into your jungle on forest spaces. The bottom one allows you to put in these river tiles, etc. So as you make your way along the track, the cost goes up, but obviously you would have hopefully built up your bag of chits by then to get later to do bigger and better things. The bag building and the Tree of Life as a score track are great. They work very well together. This is also a bit of a resource management game, because it's all well and good to try and go straight to the jungle and try and build the most and get the most animals and all the rest of it. And there is strategy in that, because the first player to finish the game or start the end game scores an extra 10 eco points. So there is a bit of a race in that element. But the bag building and the resource management is really paramount. You could spend the first few rounds building, as we said, or you could play another way where you spend the first few rounds literally building up your bag, and then while other players are trying to scrounge together the resources, you can come in and buy 3 or 4 animals on a turn. And it's a strategy, incidentally, that worked in our first game for the player who tried and tested that method. Ended up helping them win the game by about 20 points, which was quite substantial. In terms of the action list, there is always something to do. One of the great things about this is there is, I think, 9 different actions you can perform on your turn. So even if you don't necessarily have the resources for one thing, there is always something you can do. And the fact that you will be discarding all of the tokens in your pool, bar 1 or 2 or 3, depending on where you're out on the Waterfall of Life, you need to spend those tokens. So rather than waste them, you might as well do something, and there's always going to be something to do on your turn, unless you refuse to, build up your bag and everyone buys the cheap animals first. Action list, building up resources, putting putting animals into your jungle. I've been doing a lot of Zombicide of late, so forgive me. Being able to work out the placement of your different creatures as well, being able to pay resources to maneuver them around into better positions for scoring, all that sort of stuff. There is always something to do, and I love that. Speaking of placement, the tableau building of this game is beautiful. It is absolutely fabulous. Being able to get the animeeples, which are, I believe, a better quality than their previous game, but at the same time, I do think there's not as much variety. I don't know. I still enjoy them. They're still fantastic. They look amazing on the table. Being able to figure out where you place them on your tableau as your jungle starts to build. Do you build up a river region so you can put out your caimans and get more points for them? It's a push-pull sort of mechanic. You really want to place everything as best you possibly can, but there simply is never going to be enough space in your jungle to do so. So you have to plot, plan, and make the occasional sacrifice as well. And I dig that puzzle aspect of the game. It's really fantastic. Being able to place toads next to these river lily pad things you can see here allows you to get extra points. Frogs, I should say, not toads. The toucans, you place them straight away, you get extra points, and then you get a wild token. Now, the wild tokens, I believe, are going to be seeds, not these little worker placement per people, which I think is probably a better change. But the worker placement mechanic, or the extra worker wild mechanic, enforces that comment I made earlier about always having something to do on your turn, so nothing is ever wasted, and I dig that. That is very environmentally friendly. Component wise, again, all prototype, so obviously this is subject to change. I know the Kickstarter is probably going to have a deluxe upgrade component, which I do suggest you get, because the components and chipboard and everything else is nice, but having wooden tokens to match the wooden animeeples, that's going to be fantastic. The arrangement and style of the cards, the waterfall, I believe, is getting overhauled as well. Components-wise, as a prototype, it's pretty polished, I have to say. Components-wise, there are a few things that obviously need some improvement, and that's going to happen with any prototype. But the little boats, these boats here, are effectively your discard pile. And it sounds a bit weird. Why not just place them to the side? Ideally, you place them in the boat, and the boat has, I don't know if you can see it, a little ridge. It's on a slant. what's great about the boat is when you put all the chits into the boat, you can then literally pick it up like a scoop and tip them back into the bag when you do a bag reset. So rather than having to grab a handful off the table and try and scoop them in, you've already got them there ready to go to tip straight into the bag. And it does make the turn changeover or the cleanup phase that much faster. So very clever on Bad Comet's part there. Okay, the Animeeples. Now this is probably the most important components of this game. And again, these are still prototype. However, there's nothing I can say that hasn't already been said about these things. They are beautiful. They are an amazing presence on the table. And those of you who watch the channel know I am all about table presence. The fact that, you can place them over 2 hexes for the larger animals. There's smaller ones. They just look spectacular. There's lots of color. They're amazing. I will say too, the idea or the mechanic of having unique animals that are only controlled by you as a player and not anyone else gives you a sense of ownership for those 8 individuals you can see here. They're drawn randomly at the start of the game and they give you unique scoring opportunities that no one else at the table will have. And it just adds that little bit more competitiveness to it, that little bit more, my animal is better than yours, I guess, for lack of a better term. But the fact that you have a unique scoring opportunity that no one else has, it just gives you a bit more of a direction in terms of which strategy you should take or potentially take. And I dig that it makes it that much more individual in terms of strategy, which is just fantastic. They've got one other thing I want to mention too, the score pad for this game. It's a simple little score pad. It has enough space there for 4 players per sheet. But what I love about this is that it's got double-sided, so you can keep playing for days. I'm sure there's a way you can probably print off sheets after the fact, or you can just make up your own. But the fact that they've thought about printing them double-sided means they get longevity out of it. They've used everything they possibly can. Very little is left for wastage, and that's obviously part of what the game's message is about, is being eco-conscious, etc. All right, that covers components. How about we talk about some hits and misses? As a general rule, if a game has something that's going to be eye-catching and going to draw me in, such as a Waterfall of Life or jungle building where you can get down into the ecosystem, I am going to be drawn in. Table presence for me is such an important part. It's what keeps people coming back to the table. So if a game has a decent table presence and looks fantastic and people from afar are going to see it and go, ooh, what's that over there? I'm all in. That's a fantastic component for me. Table presence for days, this game has it in spades. Another thing I like is the fact that there is very little chance that you will have absolutely nothing to do on your turn. It's a very rare thing where you pull out the tokens from your bag and go, oh well. There is always something to do because you've got all those actions, because you've got the bonus actions you can pay for to, move things around for better scoring positions. That's always fantastic as well. It very, very, very rarely feels like a turn has been wasted, and that's a big, big point as well, particularly for newer players that are moving into more heavy games from, your Monopolies and your classic sort of stuff like that. This is potentially a gateway game as well, which I really like too, because we had in our first playthrough when we were doing playtesting, someone who's not heavy into games. 3 of us were hardcore gamers, 1 of us was not so much. And by the end of it, they were saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they really, understood the concept, which was fantastic. Nice, easy learning curve after a few rounds, which is another hit. But I think the fact that this was pick up and play after a few rounds and someone who's not normally readily engaging in terms of games of this magnitude ran with it and really enjoyed it. Being able to take ownership of your own individual animal as well, I really dig too. I think that's fantastic. The fact that you have an adjustable amount of animals based on player count to make the game go faster or slower, that is fantastic. I haven't even talked about the solo mode, the campaign mode that's included with this game as well, which I really love. The other things that I like about this is that there are so many ways to score points, which means therefore many strategies, which means therefore much replayability. The fact that you've got a set of animals, if I can bring them up here, you have a set of base animals and you have different scoring mechanics. So you have an A side, a B side, there's a C side and a D side in the box, and each combination presents different scoring methods, different ways to play, different strategies then present themselves as well. The fact that after you've mastered them all, you can mix and match and have 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D and just really go to town on that. That's fantastic. The bag building is a great hit for me too, because I'm a fan of deck building games. That might not suit everybody. Some people might hate that, but I love it personally. It's a big, big, big tick for me. On to a couple of misses though, where I think, and again, these could be purely cosmetic. I do feel as though the Waterfall of Life, as great as it looks on the table, it does cover up some of the points of the victory points on the track as you move the tokens through. So you constantly wondering, okay, have I received that bonus? Did I not get that bonus? Because it's covered over by other players' pieces. The nature cards here, you get scenery cards or insect cards, and sometimes the deck that you usually have 6 of these on display, is all insect cards, and no one really wants that instant reward. They want to go for scenery cards because it's a better way to score points. So maybe splitting that and having some scenery, some insect cards, number of cards based on player count +1, I don't know, might be another option as well. The tableau building can come to a bit of a grinding halt if players haven't built up their resource bags. If everyone goes hardcore out to try and pull their resources, there can be quite a few rounds where literally players have nothing else to do but up their bag because they can't access the higher powered and higher cost animals. So that's a bit of a downer as well. The other thing I think of is, and it could be simply because we've been learning the game or I've been teaching the game, there is sometimes a bit of a wait. Usually most people that I play games with would look at things like this and be like, okay, I'm going to plan out my turn while everyone else is going around the table. But sometimes it doesn't happen with a new game where you're still learning. So the downtime can be a bit of a slog. By the end of the game, of our first playthrough, I will say, we were churning through, oh, you done yet, and people were just going hell for leather, and each turn was lasting anywhere between 15 to 45 seconds. But it took us 3 hours to get to that point. That's right, our first playthrough was a 3-hour plus game. Don't get me wrong, we didn't realize we'd spent that much time playing the game. We still had a wonderful time and it was great, and we all got involved, and we looked at the clocks and went, oh my gosh, we've spent a lot of time on this. But the fact that we didn't realize we had meant that we're having a good time. So that's a positive in the negative. Time can be adjusted. Obviously, you can limit the number of animals that are on the table. The game ends when 5 of the base animals have been moved into jungles. Then there's one more round, and that's it. The final scoring is great. I get it, because being a seasoned gamer, you can make it work. But for newer players, this final scoring can be quite daunting. There is a whole pad of stuff to go through, and you never really know exactly who's in front until the very end, which again is a positive out of a negative. But at the same time, the scoring probably needs to be a smidge clearer, unless you're fully aware of it and everyone's gone over everything literally before turn 1. It can be a little bit tricky when people realize, oh, I could have got points for this, oh, I could have got points for this. Again though, that then leads into replayability, because once you know how to score different points in different ways, you're potentially going to explore those avenues as well. Overall, Life of the Amazonia is something we are thoroughly enjoying. It's a game that is designed for seasoned gamers, but junior gamers can play along it. Like, we are getting ready to record a playthrough with Charlotte, our junior gamer. She and I are going to go head to head, and we're going to show you how this one works with the current rules that we have at the time. But overall, Life of the Amazonia, I'm calling it, is better than its predecessor. There is more to do. There is less, oh, I don't know what to do on my turn. In fact, there might even be too much to do on your turn, hence the long turn times I talked about before. But the bag building element, the production on the animals themselves, building your jungle and tableau as you make your way from one single hex into this thing. Do you try to put the Amazon River all the way through? Do you place wetlands? Do you build up the forest region so you can put out more trees to score more points that way? It's just a great time at the table, and the fact that you can play a 3+ hour game and not know you've been playing for that long, that speaks volumes about the enjoyment of this particular game. One thing I will say too, it does feel quite balanced, and that's a big thing for me too, being able to make sure that there isn't someone who just runs away with it. Everyone's having a good time right to the last. Our first game we played through was 20 points between all 4 players, and that was pretty good. We were pretty happy with that. This is something I think will entreat, as I said, seasoned veteran gamers, kids alike. Those that aren't heavy gamers will still enjoy this too, because it looks fantastic. There's still a lot. It's easy enough to understand. And I think this is, I mean, look, I'm being biased because I really love it, but at the same time, I think it's going to do quite well when it launches on Kickstarter next week. So if you haven't already, click that description, get involved. Kickstarter launches October 12th. Thank you very much for joining us. It would be remiss of me not to thank our Patreon subscribers for allowing us to do all the crazy stuff we do here on the channel. And if you haven't already, folks, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay in touch whenever we post new content. Until then, folks, get out there, check out the Kickstarter page for Life of the Amazonia, and we will see you back here for some more epic board game content, including a playthrough, hopefully early next week. And we'll see you back here very, very soon. Until then, folks, it is bye for now.